Gordon, our president and CEO, and Heidi Davidson, our board chair. We want to welcome everyone to the BCW's Economic Recovery Task Force Town Hall meeting, co-chaired by Westchester County government. The topic this morning is to get suggestions from the Business Council of Westchester members on how should Westchester County prioritize and strategize the allocation of the funds from the American Rescue Plan, which they will be receiving to help rejuvenate Westchester's economy. Just some housekeeping rules. If everyone could please put themselves on mute. Please put themselves on mute. We are not doing this as a webinar, but we really need people to respect the fact that it's going to make the program run smoother if everyone goes on mute. We're also recording this on Facebook Live, and a recording of this town hall meeting will be placed on the BCW's Business Resource Center. So if for any reason colleagues were not able to attend this morning, or you want to direct people to this important subject matter, they can go to our website. Just some history. Very early on, when the pandemic hit, the BCW immediately began to mobilize to be a proactive, helpful participant for the county and for the state. And we created the Economic Recovery Task Force, which consisted of business leaders in all different sectors around the county, to begin to dig in to look at specific issues that we felt county and state leaders needed to know were happening on the ground. And we issued 2 reports that we submitted to both the state and to the county as a way to give them some benchmark findings of what was happening. We also had numerous town hall meetings, again, similar to today's town hall meeting, so that we could continue to enlist and engage our members in helping to begin to rebound from this pandemic. And obviously today's subject is continuing that effort as we begin to look on how we as the business community in Westchester County can work hand in hand with the county as they begin to administer the funds that are going to be coming from Washington. So today's program is really an opportunity for you to hear about some of the parameters about the program that Bridget Gibbons and Norma Drummond will be discussing in a few moments, but then to offer any ideas and suggestions. And here's how we're going to do that. And again, I hope you'll respect the way this format is going to go. If you have a suggestion or an idea, please put it in the chat box, just directed to me. Just directed to me. And make sure you put your name and your business, and we will read those off, as many as we can during the course of the program that it will be ending at 10 a.m. So again, please stay on mute. Please direct any questions or suggestions that you would like Bridget and Norma to know about to either the chat box or the Q&A box, but only directed to me. So again, I'll have Yvette put that instructions up for everybody just to remind them. Again, please put your questions and suggestions with your name and business to me directly in either the chat box and in the Q&A box. We will also be taking many of the suggestions that we hear today and putting it into another report that we will be sending to the county executive and his team as well. As we said, we are very fortunate to be and always have had a good, solid working relationship with the county executive and his senior staff. I will say that one of, I think, the most productive things that we were engaged in over this last year and a half was the reopening task force that Bridget Gibbons chaired on behalf of the county executive. Marcia Gordon and I participated each week in those meetings, and Bridget did a fantastic job bringing all of us together on a weekly basis so that we could, again, get updates from the county, share ideas, but also engage in what hopefully was a collaborative effort to help the county move forward, especially during those early months of the pandemic. So today's town hall meeting is just another example of that solid partnership that we have with the county executive and his team. Our 2 speakers today are folks that we've worked with for years, and many of you know. Bridget Gibbons serves as the Westchester County Executive's Director of Economic Development. In this role, she's focused on attracting and retaining business and talent in Westchester. And since the pandemic started, she has focused on providing critical funding, information, and crisis advisory programs to help our businesses recover and become more resilient. Her office runs the Element 46 Startup Business Incubator, the county's Bioscience Accelerator Program, the Launch 1000, a program that helps over 600 people in Westchester start a business, and it provides a wide range of resources for small, medium, and large businesses. And we're very, again, excited the fact that Marcia and Heidi for the Business Council of Westchester have played a leading role working with Bridget in those programs. Norma Drummond is the Commissioner of Planning for Westchester County with over 35 years of extensive community and economic development experience, including managing a number of the county's federal grants, including CDBG, HOME, ESG, HOPWA, lead hazard control, and the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Norma is a past president of the National Association for County Community and Economic Development, and she has served on the board of the National Association of Counties Community and Economic Development Steering Committee, the New York State Association of Redevelopment and Housing Officials, and sits on several other non-for-profit boards. She has served on a local planning and zoning boards for over 20 years, including currently serving as chair of her local zoning board of appeals for the last 10 years. Bridget and Norman, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to turn the program over to you so that you can give a helicopter tour and a brief parameters of what these programs and fundings are looking like. And then, as I said, again, not to be repetitive, if you do have some suggestions that you'd like to go on the record to give to Norma and to Bridget, please put them in the chat box or the Q&A box directed just to me. Bridget and Norma, the show is yours.
Great, thank you so much, John. And I just want to acknowledge, our very important relationship between the Business Council of Westchester and the Westchester County government. We really value that relationship. And thank you for your participation, your and Marcia participation on our reopening task force for the last year and a half. It was really, you gave a lot of time, and we really appreciate your input, and we value that. I also want to thank everybody that's here today. County Executive Latimer, thanks to you. We do value the input from your perspective and your input on, the ways to use this money. We're just in terms of process, we are gathering input forms such as this. We had a meeting with the Westchester County Association, some of their members. We will be holding 2 public hearings, one on August 24th and another on September 13th. If you're interested in the details of those, just let me know. But the goal is really to kind of cast a wide net and pull in as much input as we can from various stakeholders, and then kind of go off and make a decision on, what's the best use of these funds. We have quite a bit of money, so we're getting $94 million over the course of the next 2 years, so 94 million and the 94 million. And that has fairly broad, just description on how the funds can be used. I'll just take a minute to quickly go through a summary of basically a high level guidance on how to use the money. So there's several buckets, high level buckets. The first is supporting the public health response. So that's broadly under the headings of treatment and medical health services, enhanced behavioral and mental health services, support for local health and safety workforce, improving the design and execution of health and public health programs, addressing disparities in public health. So that's fairly broad. The next category is address the negative economic impacts for households. So the funds can be used to assist households or populations, preferably those most disproportionately impacted by the negative economic impacts of COVID, such as food assistance. We're running a rental assistance program, counseling and legal aid, cash assistance, home repairs, internet access and digital literacy, job training, and other programs. The next bucket is assistance to small businesses and nonprofits, loans or grants to mitigate hardship. And so we are actually in the process of implementing a grant program for our nonprofits that has yet to be rolled out, but we are in the process of kind of putting together the process for doing grants for our nonprofits. And we do plan to do a grant process for our for-profit businesses, but we are going to be waiting until the New York State grant program has been depleted. And then whoever has not been able to get grants through that program, we would offer grants through the ARPA funds. Let's see. Premium pay and for essential workers. So this is a category that's allowed. Premium pay may be provided retroactively for work performed anytime since January 27th, 2020. So there's a kind of the allowance for actually compensating our first line, our essential workers who have really given so much over the course of the pandemic. Replacement of public sector revenue loss. So that's something, we obviously are, the county was impacted just like many businesses across the county. And so we are allowed to take some of these funds and use them to help us recover lost revenue. Broadband infrastructure. So that's a very important issue that was highlighted by the pandemic, that we have pretty significant gaps in our broadband coverage and Wi-Fi coverage. So we are going to be carving out some funds to focus on that. We also hope that if the infrastructure bill that's kind of currently being worked on by the Biden administration, that will probably also have funds for broadband. So we're looking forward to really making an impact across the county on that. So those are the broad categories of uses of these funds. And so we, just so you have a kind of a frame of reference, it's not kind of anything goes, but that basically focused on those categories. And from my perspective, broadband is obviously a critical one for our businesses and our homes that have been, obviously the need has been highlighted by kids and people working from home that don't have significant coverage. I'm focused also on the biosciences as a sector. So I'm hoping that we can do something significant in terms of biosciences, growing that sector along, we have Regeneron, which is a wonderfully robust and growing and expanding company. And we'd love to have more companies move here in the biosciences and also help our businesses that are here to expand. And I'm going to turn, and I know from Norma's perspective, I'll just kind of jump in. We have lots and lots of needs in the county from an infrastructure perspective, so water and sewer. And so those are issues that we know we need to address, and it's going to be part of the overall plan. And I'll turn it over to Norma, who's going to fill in a little bit on from her perspective of funds that she has and how they can be used. Norma.
Thank you, Bridget. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. There is actually an additional $12 million of ARPA funds coming specifically to Westchester County, but there's $4 million of it is coming to Westchester County through the planning department on behalf of the consortium communities. That is right now the 30 municipalities that have asked the county to administer the federal grants on their behalf. But there's another $4.6 million coming directly to Yonkers, 1.49 going to New Rochelle, and 1.8 million going to Mount Vernon. So there's $12 million of extra ARPA funds coming specifically to help us deal with affordable housing needs. So that's going to be, that'll be great news, particularly in these communities, because a lot of our developers are being hit with extra costs. Their supply chains to be able to get the materials for those units that are even already under construction. The costs that they're being hit with, just amazing. A 4-unit development in Rybrook, the developer told us his modular unit cost. He showed us the bill for it. The modular cost for 4 units went up $270,000. So, it's just amazing how these cost increases are occurring if you can even get the materials themselves. There is no guidance or very little guidance that's come out related to these specific funds. It is a portion of the home program. The HUD has said that they expect to release guidance in the fall. So everyone's expectation is sometime in September we'll get guidance. The only thing that we've seen so far is that they expect that any units that are assisted with these home funds would give a priority to people who are homeless or formerly homeless. I think the idea is to try to get as many people as possible out of the shelters that we have here in the county and all across the country, because those are clearly areas that when COVID gets in there, it can be really devastating to the populations that are in there. So, again, that's all the guidance I have at this point, but just to keep in mind, so affordable housing certainly factored into the American Rescue Plan, but it does have its own allocation of funds for us to use.
That's great. Thank you both. A quick question. I mean, obviously, and you've mentioned it already in your opening remarks, and we've seen this with the other programs and funding that have come from Washington. The guidelines come later than the announcement about the programs and the funding. How is the county going to publicize the guidelines, and if there are updated guidelines or amended guidelines as we move forward?
We actually got, hundreds of pages of guidance for the main ARPA funding. And that's where I got this summary and was able to read off the basic high level buckets. So our budget department has gone through and read all of the pages of guidance, and we have a pretty clear understanding of what's allowed and what's not. I can find out if I'm allowed to share this high level summary, but I did read basically the key points just before. And I think it's different for Norma though.
Great.
Yeah, and
okay.
my guidance really isn't out yet. It's like every other HUD program, you kind of wait to, for HUD to release their instructions with it.
Again, for folks, if you do have some ideas, suggestions, or questions, please put them in the chat box directed to me. We've gotten a few. I'm going to start off just with two from the BCW that we hope you guys will take into consideration. As you know, we have been working very closely with many of the leading developers in the county who have made huge investments to not only build affordable housing, but also build projects that are going to bring in continuing revenue to the municipalities as well as create new jobs. One of the biggest priorities as we move forward is how can these developers, as they're building these projects, begin to hire local Westchester residents, certainly in some of our urban areas that really need to be able to have those opportunities. As Bridget, as you know, and as the county exec knows, because Marcia has briefed him, we are in the process of putting together what hopefully will be a really game changer partnership, public-private partnership, to do that, to train the apprentice, to not only give them the opportunity to get the classroom training that they need in the different specialties, but also to get the on-site, on-the-ground training from contractors while these projects are getting done. If there is a bucket to support these type of public-private apprenticeship programs for local hire in those areas, we're hoping that you'll put that on your priority list. The second piece that is something that has been a priority for the BCW has been to continue to do all we can to enhance Westchester County's airport. And again, when I say enhance, we don't mean enlarge, we mean enhance, so that we can continue to use the airport as a real economic development tool for you, Bridget, and your team as we look to recruit and retain businesses, but also to do what our Westchester Airport Advisory Board started talking about 4 years ago, which is to really enhance the airport for what we call the 3 C's, the business community, the traveling community, and the neighboring community. And so as this funding comes in, and I know there's been some funding already allocated for the airport, as we look to enhance and give the operators of the airport more tools that they can use to make that airport, again, that economic tool, that an economic driver that we think it should be, where hopefully that will be in your priority list as well. All right, I'm going to start taking some questions from folks who are in here today. Larry Gottlieb from Robert Martin's, and this goes to the life sciences and advanced manufacturing. Larry talks about having matching recruitment funding grants for STEM-based businesses, and having Bridget, your department, provide matching grants to fledgling firms to assist in the recruitment and hiring of new employees And Larry really talks about drilling down to the higher amounts of recruitment efforts of people of color throughout the county, which may come in the form of digital ads, participating in recruitment fairs, offsetting travel costs, and attending on-campus recruit fairs, et cetera. So again, as we look to continue to make Westchester County a real groundbreaking piece of the life science work around the world, hopefully this will be another tool to do that as well. Larry also brings up another point, which I think is important, which Westchester County upgrades and consolidates all of their laboratory facilities, health, environmental, and crime, into one brand new facility, which would hopefully bring additional 20,000 of additional laboratory and office space for small life sciences companies. So those are two suggestions in the life science area that we hope you'll focus on as well. As you know, one of the other priorities that we've been focusing on in the BCW is the changing energy landscape in Westchester County. Obviously, with Indian Point closing its last reactor in April, with Con Edison still having their gas moratorium imposed on the southern part of the county, we have been very concerned and have been laser focused on, if we are now going to use renewables as our sources of energy, having that infrastructure built and not having communities stand in the way of us getting those infrastructures built, because we don't want to find ourselves in the same situation as California and Texas. So Ron Kamen from Earthkind Energy Consulting raises this question: to address climate disruption, energy needs, and create jobs, can we create a task force, a clean energy task force, and provide marketing and training funding to leverage the new federal funds, with the goal to move every building to solar, storage, clean heating, and electric vehicles? And we've gotten a few other people who have mentioned electric vehicles today too. And I know the county executive has made that a priority of making sure some of all of our vehicles in your fleets are there. But that's one of the suggestions that came today as well, is making Westchester a real leader in this by transferring all of their vehicles to electric vehicles, and maybe the funding can go to that as well.
Right. I just want to jump in, and we did agree that I wouldn't be saying good idea, not a good idea, but I do want to jump in on the Clean Energy Task Force, because I am actually in the process of forming one. And it is to accomplish that goal specifically. So we have from an economic development standpoint, we have a sector strategy to focus on four main sectors. One is biosciences, the other is advanced manufacturing, clean energy, and digital technology. And so we are establishing task forces for each of those sectors, and to really understand what should we be doing to help those businesses grow, attract more businesses, get work, and accomplish workforce development, so our people are getting jobs in those sectors. So thank you for that great idea, right in sync with what we're doing. So I appreciate that.
Great. And
And
just
actually,
one other,
John, can I just jump in real quick too?
please, please.
I just want to give a heads up that we are actually also working here in the planning department on putting together a model ordinance as it relates to solar energy. There are a lot of municipalities that don't have professional planners on their staff. And so if the county can put out model ordinances, it lets the energy companies and others know, that it's going to get, again, standardize the conversation and standardize what the municipality should look for and what they should require in being able to allow battery storage and solar farms or solar, panels within their communities. And hopefully it will allow many of our municipalities to adopt solar regulations a lot quicker than they would have gotten to otherwise.
And just staying with this for a moment, because this came in, which is under the same topic of electrifying Westchester. Again, one suggestion was that the Office of Economic Development not only invest in 1,000 electric car charging stations within a key 1,000-day period, but also partnering again with NYPA and Con Edison to rapidly increase the adoption of electric-based transportation in the county. And one of the suggestions that came out this morning was that special priorities placed around transportation hubs would be a good place to start, i.e. train stations, commercial parking lots, Main Street shopping districts, healthcare campuses, and major employers. And that the county would cover 75% of the cost, with the matching funds to come hopefully from private enterprise and other government entities and utility companies as well. And again, this could put us as really game changers that hopefully would be a model for other municipalities around the state and around the country to do. So again, as we continue to look at infrastructure, and as you, Norma, said, there's so much is needed to improve our infrastructure, that would be important. So those are questions that are coming in. I'm going to start reading off some other questions and suggestions. Here's a question, though, and it's from Laura DeBays from the Picture House. Bridget, is there a timeline for the nonprofit grant programs?
Sorry, sometime in the early fall. We were working through the guidance is a little bit more challenging this time around. We did do grants in last year. This time around, it's more challenging, more restrictions, more reporting requirements. So we're enhancing our programs. I would say sometime in the early fall.
Okay. Maria Imperiali, and again, this is an issue that we've been focusing on, and I know the county has been focusing on, but the issue of childcare. And hopefully there is a role for funding for childcare and working with the organizations like Kathy Hallis's Child Care Council and others. And we at the Business Council want to continue to engage the business community in understanding, and I'm sure this last year and a half has really been an eye opener for many employers about the daily struggles that their employees have to deal with in terms of childcare. So obviously childcare is important. Maria also talks about the development of a racial equity scorecard in each area to ensure that funding is addressed, addressing racial disparities in each area. And she also talks about the support for nonprofit capital needs. So those are ongoing issues that she had. Mary Beth de Blasio from the College of Westchester states that thanks us for holding this meeting, but says that the College of Westchester remains solid. Many of our students and their families struggle with meeting all of their needs. Secondly, these same students are ready and willing to train for key jobs that need to be filled by many of our businesses, IT and healthcare organizations, as an example. This need fits into the boxes, including that you mentioned, in household needs and specific workforce training. And the College of Westchester has taken an extra cost that they have as an organization to face and support these training needs in the business for businesses. Mary Beth really asked that the county consider funding for these programs that will directly benefit Westchester's most needy students by helping connect them with training that will let them be continuing county residents and having sustainable jobs. So it's really that connection. And again, we're so fortunate in the county to have colleges like the College of Westchester's and others who really, again, are focused on helping their students go to that next level and giving them the training. So Mary Beth, thank you very much for that question. But again, obviously, Bridget and Norma, you know, to be able to reach out to presidents like Mary Beth and others is just a great resource and a tool. Nancy Miller has the question. We need an investment in jobs for people who are blind and people with disabilities. There is a large gap in digital access. And is there a focus on investing in programs and services helping disabled job seekers and disabled older adults wanting to age in place?
I just comment, you know, we are through our Office for People with Disabilities here in the county. We do have a program that's designed specifically for people who are blind and with other disabilities. So I would suggest, Nancy, that you give me a call and I'll connect you with Evan Latainer, our director for that office. We have a very close relationship with a company that, you know, provides special equipment and special training for people who are blind and with other disabilities. So, you know, give me my phone number is 914-995-2952. And anybody on this call is welcome to call me. But Nancy, specifically on your point, give me a call and I'll point you in the right direction.
That's great. Thank you very much on that. Millie Becker, who is also a board member for the BCW, asked this question. Is there a bucket for the adult special needs housing community? This population is growing and the need is there.
So I can tell you that anytime the county awards funds, we do require that 50% of the units in those affordable housing developments are mandated to follow and to be in compliance with universal design standards. So what we're trying to do is make as many units as possible accessible and not just able to be adaptable, but actually accessible to as many people as possible. But 50% of any units that get assistance, financial assistance from the county, have to meet universal design standards. That's actually been the county law since 2011.
And Millie, I don't know specifically, so I would encourage you to have this, your specific requirement or request included in the overall report that the Business Council provides us, and we can do some more research.
That would be helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. And folks, we're getting some good questions. Some are putting their names in, some are not. I'm going to read those questions even if your names aren't on there. But please, in the few minutes that we have remaining, please continue to send me any questions or suggestions that you might have. Here's some that are coming under economic development again. Set a goal for every Westchester County public school student to take a course in entrepreneurism, either in person or online instruction. Hopefully not as a mandate, but as a way of enhancing young people's opportunities to do that. And that could be led by Westchester County, but also using BCW and other of our members, hopefully as participants to be part of that. Another one is, could the Office of Economic Development provide scholarship to local municipalities to send government officials, employees, board members to economic development certification courses and conferences on a variety of topics such as business attraction and retention, Main Street revitalization, rezoning, and other areas. I guess the purpose of that would be to send an army of folks to get those type of trainings and then have them come back and give you whatever intel they have as ways of continuing to look to see how those programs could move forward. Okay, let me just go into I'm getting some more here. Hold on. Here's a bold idea. And again, this is something that we at the Business Council and also working with folks like Larry Gottlieb and others have been talking about for years. But it's one that I think could be so exciting and have so much potential. And that's dealing with the county center. And it's the time, and obviously the county center has played such a critical role this last year and a half, first for the testing and then for the vaccines. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who took advantage of that for our family. But again, I really hats off to the county for the work that they did to turn that county center into a really mobile healthcare facility that did a great job. But once we move, knock wood, I hope everyone can hear that knocking wood, move forward, is it time now to look to basically tear down the county center and begin to create and rebuild it in a venue really from the ground floor up to become, and some of the suggestions that we've heard over the last few months, a premier East Coast e-sport competition arena, one that would have high-speed digital infrastructure, et cetera. But more importantly, it could really help us attract and retain conferences and other type of events. So the county center, as much as it has such great history in the county, maybe now the time is to look to see if we could, that funding that's coming from Washington could start that project as well. Hold on, we're getting some more. I'm trying to. Okay. Here's a question that Marcia's raised regarding housing subsidies to students who go to local colleges and have them be able to stay here and work once they're completed their college studies at a Westchester College higher education institution. Going back to the broadband issue, Bridget, that you raised in your opening remarks, using the federal funds to provide free Wi-Fi throughout all of Westchester County. And I think you were spot on in your opening remarks that this last year and a half has again shown us that there are major areas in the county where there's a huge disparity in terms of broadband, and especially for students, that will be important in those areas that really were struggling during the remote learning to be able to do that. So I'm just curious, have there been thoughts on that whole, as you talk about enhancing broadband, to do that type of countywide program?
Yes, the challenge that we have, I mean, it's definitely a top priority for the county in terms of, the funds that we'll be receiving, and the approach is a little challenging, only that we have in Westchester County, New York State, home rule. So the municipalities control the broadband and Wi-Fi within their municipal boundaries, and we do not. We can only affect the areas that we control. So, along the Bronx River Parkway or some other towers that we might own. But we, the goal is we have to kind of think big, and how do we coordinate with the municipalities to help them, help all 45 municipalities, move forward in this area, and how can we be the convener and the kind of the guiding force so that this does get done. And if there are gaps where we could step in and be helpful with funds or whatever it might be, we certainly want to do that. So it's definitely on our list, and it's just going to be it's always challenging when you're doing a countywide rollout of anything, and so we'll just have to figure out the best way, most efficient way to do it.
And we are in the process right now of upgrading all of the public safety radio system. There's new cell towers that are going up. Again, we've identified where all the gap areas are, but that's public safety, not just countywide. We're also going to try to incorporate assisting all the local municipalities as well. But this is a huge project, okay? And then getting property rights and other things to be able to put some of these towers and shelters and the equipment that's needed up in various places. We've been working on this for years at this point, and we're still in phases 1 and 2. There's still another phase to this, but that's critically important for us going forward is public safety.
That's great. Going back to life sciences and advanced manufacturing for that bucket, some other suggestions that have come in. Again, this is also partnering with the schools of higher education in the county to see if the Office of Economic Development, working with those colleges and universities, would pay for dorm housing and transportation to and from work for 100 summer interns, working with STEM-based small to mid-sized businesses, companies, and having the companies must agree to provide a salary for the summer intern. And again, if we wanted to have a plus 100 interns, what that salary would look like and what that fee would be. And then as an add-on to that, if the county, and we saw over the last year and a half that the county's 2 of the larger hotels in the county have closed, both Arrowwood and the Hilton. Could the county rehabilitate one of those hotels or another large facility to house STEM employees for a year? So that as people are coming into our companies in Westchester to begin their work, housing is always an issue. At least for that first year, they would have somewhere to go. And again, this would be a county initiative. So those are 2 more ideas that have come out of that. Folks, again, if you have ideas, please put them into the chat room to me. Getting some more, hold on. I'm just reading these that are coming in. Okay, this goes again into some big ideas, but in the topics that we've been talking about. Providing a $1 million economic development grant to all 48 municipalities to be used specifically on expanding digital infrastructure for businesses, attraction or retention.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. The municipalities are all getting their own ARPA money. So they can certainly prioritize. If that's a priority for them, they can use the money that way, or they may have other priorities, infrastructure or whatever. But That's one of the benefits is that, as we look at a county-wide, strategy, that we know that they're going to have their own funds. So maybe we can somehow, ask them to allocate a certain amount for, broadband, Wi-Fi, et cetera, and other priorities that the county has.
Okay, great. Allison Anderson has a suggestion. Join the Economic Development Pilot Project with skilled jobs and succession matching to make trades, such as IT looking to grow their career with business owners looking to sell and transition out of the next 1 to 5 years. We also had a suggestion about, again, on the tourism side, whatever we can do through these fundings to make Westchester and promote Westchester even more as an attractive place to play, amazing parks, a campaign to attract tourists to Westchester from other parts of New York and around the country, which would help boost the hospitality industry, which we know has taken a huge hit since with the pandemic.
Right. I didn't mention in my overview of the different buckets that are allowable. Tourism, there is specific money carved out of the ARPA, budget for tourism. And so Natasha Caputo, our director of tourism, is looking closely at that and what would make the most sense.
That's great. That's great. Another question is about sector-based marketing campaign, again, to add to the attraction of the business community as well. In terms of, and again, this is a question that, as we look at the different sectors that really have taken the biggest hit in hospital, obviously we've touched on already the hospitality sector and the restaurants as well. Are there any programs now that the county is continuing to look at and to support those two sectors?
Definitely, as part of the bucket of money that is focused from the ARPA funds that is focused on tourism, it's also focused on hospitality. So we are looking closely at that and determining and working closely with our hospitality partners in the county to determine, what's the best approach, what's going to have the biggest bang for the buck. So we are definitely, we know that's, tourism and hospitality was one of our strongest sectors prior to the pandemic. We were really firing on all cylinders there. And so we know we need to do our best to bring it back.
Folks, I'm going to give one last opportunity. If people do have a question or a suggestion, if you put that into the chat box, that would be very helpful, and we'll read this before we break for the morning. In terms of housing, and again, that's been a big issue. We've gotten 3 questions just about housing and affordable housing, or either through the buckets that you've already mentioned or some already existing programs. What is the priority that the county is going to be focusing on regarding that?
So we already know we still need tons of units of housing. The housing needs assessment that County Executive Latimer, had done showed us we needed 11,703 units, and we're making, we're leaps and bounds moving forward with a whole bunch of developments all across the county. We've had some open already this year, so we're looking for all sorts of housing, all with different sizes, different opportunities, different places. Some senior housing as well. So, there's not necessarily a priority beyond making sure that we are creating a multitude of opportunities, because housing is not a one size fits all. We know, not everybody wants to live in certain places of the county. People want to, have opportunities all over of different sizes. The pandemic certainly showed us that. So yeah, but aside from doing as many units as possible, I think that's the priority.
Okay, and then I guess, and again, we've gotten some people again really wanting to focus on infrastructure, roads and bridges, as Norma mentioned. So those are going to be important as well. Again, folks, this is the last shout out. If you have any suggestions that you want us to get on the record right now, please send them to us. Please also do this, and this is very important because we have over 70 people on this call. And we know that our members are never usually this shy about giving us their ideas. Please send me any other additional ideas or suggestions that you have so that we can make sure that we include them into the report that we are going to be submitting to the county executive and Bridget and Norma in the next few weeks as they begin to interface with the federal government on that. And Bridget, can you just touch on that? I mean, obviously, you know the amount that you've received from the county, and it's going to come in 2 separate buckets. Do you have to do some reporting on your end as well?
Yes, we do. And we have to submit by the end of August our preliminary high-level strategy for spending the funds, so not the details, thankfully. And then there will be, I believe, quarterly reports on, fine tuning how the money will be spent, and then also, how are we doing in terms of, achieving the objectives that we've stated. So there's a real set of accountability, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier with the grant program. We really have to. They're requiring much more. Accountability in terms of, accounting for the funds and how they're being spent. So I believe it's quarterly reporting.
Okay, great. And again, that's why a meeting like today is so important, because we wanted to be able to, again, give you as much detail as possible. And that's what will be going into our report that we'll be sending to you. Shirley Acevedo from Latino U has this question. ARPA funding, the pandemic has disturbed post-secondary pathways, particularly for low-income students of color. Enrollment has declined, as well as financial and aid applications among those who are most in need. Can funding be utilized to support advising and supports for students and families to get them back on track? Post-secondary education ensures a diverse, prepared, and talented workforce in Westchester County.
John, I would just, include that in your report and your recommendations.
Okay. We will definitely do that as well. Seeing no other questions here and wanting to be mindful of everyone's time, we will wrap up. Again, for those of you who are on this meeting who might, as soon as we sign off, say, ooh, I wish I had put that suggestion in, or have a question, please email me those suggestions. Again, my email is jravitz, all one word, JRA, V as in Victor, ITZ @thebcw.org. As I've stated this morning, we are planning to send a detailed report to the county executive and to Bridget and Norma with the suggestions that we've already discussed today, as well as others that might come in. So as they continue to begin to administer these new pots of money, hopefully they're going into this. And again, I want to thank everybody who was on the call today, the meeting today, because I think we touched on a lot of important key topics and areas where Westchester County can use this funding, whether it be in the life sciences and advanced manufacturing, to infrastructure, to higher education, to other economic development issues. These are all important factors that we at the Business Council of Westchester want to continue to partner with the county and all of you, so that as we look to rebound and continue to reemerge from this pandemic, that we are really, again, making sure that we're not finding any gaps and using those fundings to fill those gaps. So on behalf of Marcia Gordon, our president and CEO, and Heidi Davidson, our board chair, I want to thank Bridget and thank Norma for not only today, but for the work they've done for the last year and a half, probably working 7 days a week, many, many hours. So thank you, and to thank our county executive. Again, to everyone in this meeting, as we wind down the summer, hopefully everyone has a relaxing and safe and healthy summer. And we'll see everybody again real soon. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Marcia. Wait.